Michigan's Board of Regent Jordan Acker has been making quite a name for himself recently by speaking out against the Big Ten's potential deal with UC Investments for $2.4 billion. He's been quite anti-Big Ten and voiced his beliefs that the deal is private equity and that he does not like it. We're going to cover all of the recent developments for sure, so please do like and subscribe here to the Big Ten Huddle. We cover every single Big Ten team as well as all the realignment and, of course, have some trash talk about the SEC along the way. So like, subscribe, and let us know what you think in the comments about Michigan, this deal with Big Ten UC Investments. Are they actually going to go independent? All that good stuff. We're going to get to it all. So back to the Big Ten football news, as Ackerman really amplified some things by doing a SiriusXM interview, SiriusXM radio interview with Nicole Auerbach. Ackerman is a University of Michigan regent who didn't just voice opposition to the Big Ten's proposed $2.4 billion capital deal. He straight up suggested that Michigan would no longer be in the Big Ten and seek independence for the Wolverines football program if this deal does go through. Now, his words read like a scenario where it is implied that Michigan wouldn't necessarily leave, but more of Michigan being kicked out or forced to leave out of the conference once the current grant of rights expires in 2036. He said, quote, "The possibility of independence for football is certainly something that has to be considered. Not today, but at the end of the grant of rights in 2036. I think it's something you have to think about, not because we want to leave the Big Ten Conference, because the commissioner's office has made it enormously clear that they're going to move forward with the proposed capital deal without us. And that would be the end of Michigan as far as I can see in the Big Ten Conference," end quote. So Jordan's independence whispers isn't just Michigan, chest thumping and saying, we're better and all this stuff or anything. It's honestly a real possibility. And as much as I think it wouldn't be a good idea for Michigan, they are one of the few teams in college football, one of the few programs in college football who could actually pull it off. But Acker is really is the only one who is upset, as Ross Dellinger reported that on November 14th. It isn't the only one. Sorry. He isn't the only one who's upset, as Ross Dellinger reported on November 14th, last Friday, that 23 board members from 12 different Big Ten schools hopped on a call with the American Council of Trustees and Alumni to hash out their fears. That's not a lot of board members considering how many all 18 have, but they did hear predominantly from Michigan, USC, Minnesota, Penn State, and Maryland, who issued their qualms. It's pretty easy to tell, though, that this is most likely didn't go anywhere. I mean, Michigan had Sarah Hubbard, one of their people. She asked if it's appropriate for an outside investor to be doing this with the Big Ten, and it certainly is. I don't know why that's even a question. As every single Power Four conference right now, the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC, they're all dealing with investors and talking about private equity at this point. In fact, the Big Ten just recently rejected a private equity offer because that's not what they want to go with, and they have zero issues with. And you heard zero issues from board members of schools about that. USC's Jess Smolian said they need more answers, which doesn't make much sense either, as a Big Ten official told Scott Docterman last week that there have been hundreds of hours and weekly athletic director agendas on this for over a year. They have had meetings with presidents, is what they say, individual meetings with institutions, and given multiple presentations. So something isn't exactly adding up here when you look at some of these comments and with what else has been said out there. Between all of them, we're not getting the entire truth of what's going on. USC's athletic director, Jen Cohen, also sent out a message last Friday for people in her State of Troy letter on Friday that screams caution without closing the door. She said that their obligation to the University of Southern California demands they thoroughly evaluate any deals that could impact their long-term value and flexibility, no matter the short-term benefit. No independence talk from her camp or anything like that. That's not what they're trying to get at. At least that doesn't sound like what they're trying to get at right now. But it is evident that USC has some hesitancy about the deal. They don't seem as against it as maybe Michigan does. And it sounds like they're kind of against it for different reasons. But we all know USC is opposed to the deal because of the first tier payout system, right? They're not on the first tier. They want to be on the first tier. So it seems like USC wants to try and delay the deal so that way they can try to get the same payout as Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. Honestly, not a terrible strategy, but I think that's what they're trying to do here. For Michigan, though, this feels deeper than the deal. For Acker, it feels personal for him between him and Tony Petitti. Now, we know Michigan has not had very good relationships with Tony Petitti ever since Jim Harbaugh, so he continues to speak out against the Big Ten and Tony Petitti. As far as we know, the conference still plans to hold the vote of the capital investment proposal on November 21st, but that seems very unlikely that it will happen. It seems likely that it will change now that UC Investments came out with a statement and announced that that any agreement with the league is better with the quote unity of all 18 schools. It quote recognizes that some schools need more time, kind of signaling that there is a pause in the process here. There's a lot of different reporting out there. All I can say is it sounds like it's just a pause. It doesn't sound like the deal is done or anything. We'll see if this vote date changes or if there's anything in the coming days about that. But if that is the case, it appears USC and Michigan do have more leverage here than we originally thought when it was reported that the deal wasn't going to change, as many others and I thought would happen, right? The other 16 Big Ten schools are reportedly on board with this deal, but with Michigan and USC holding firm that they don't want it, the Big Ten might not be able to move as quickly as Tony Petitti would like to move. Michigan did help birth the conference, and yes, they did bolt for the conference once in like 1907, I think it was, over a rules dispute going independent for nearly a decade. And right now, that seems like something that could happen again, as I find it very unlikely the rest of the 16 schools are just going to continue to wait around for USC and Michigan to make up their minds. Last month, the full board of regents unanimously rejected the deal, with Acker urging Ohio State and Michigan State to follow suit. But the Buckeyes and the Spartans aren't budging, as they appear to be 100% in on the deal still. And with Acker floating the idea of independence out there in that SiriusXM interview, it's clear that Michigan and USC are on their own here. They both claim that the deal has not been communicated enough. So in that statement by UC Investments, they said they understand there has been a lot of misinformation out there about the deal, reiterating that what I have been saying for multiple times now, which is that the deal is not private equity. It's not a private capital deal. They reached out to USC Investments for comment, and they got back saying, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of people calling this private equity. It's not. We don't deal with private equity, right? They said this group is not a private equity group. They don't deal in private equity at all. Not like, oh, we don't do it very often. It's not at all. So this whole idea that the Michigan board has been spewing that this is a payday loan or private equity, it's completely false, which again makes this so much more confusing to be able to know exactly what's going on. But Michigan and USC both mean so much to UC Investments that they're willing to pause the deal to help the schools better understand what's going on. But ultimately, I'm not sure that will actually fix anything. I don't think there needs to be more time to explain, because there's a lot of rumors about what's going on behind the scenes, stuff like, Michigan being elitist and all that stuff, which I'm not saying is wrong, but I do think there is a common denominator between these two schools. And that common denominator is that both of these two schools have interim presidents. Michigan has gone from the school that was vying for this deal the most, and they were the one that was making it happen under Santa Ono. They were with it, more than anyone in the Big Ten, really. Santa Ono, he was the one that was trying to make it happen. They've gone from that to being the ones that are the most opposed against it in the Big Ten. According to Greg Flugar, good friend of the show, go check out his stuff on YouTube. The Peek Around the Corner is his channel. I think it's College Football Peek Around the Corner. I'll link it down below in the description. But according to Greg, who's a Minnesota guy, Minnesota's board of regents is having difficulties with this deal, but the Minnesota president, who was kind of like the right-hand person for Santa Ono, is on board with the deal, and that is what wins out in this scenario, right? I'm not trying to say either interim president isn't doing a good job or they're doing a bad job or anything like that, but I don't see uh I don't see when 16 schools are saying this is a good deal and all of them have, full presidents who are there. But from what I understand, it's a good deal too. The full new presidents will come in and see that too and go with it. Now, is it a perfect deal? No, there's no such thing as a perfect deal. In the conference, everyone is going to get some of what they want and some of what they do not want. It happens. But the president will be able to make the tough decision, unilaterally say, this is what we're doing, and see what the deal is something they cannot turn down. Jordan Acker keeps talking about other deals. The only other deal we have heard about is a private equity deal. So I don't know why he would talk about that deal when this isn't even a private equity deal. So until then, until we see one that's better than this one, to me, this is the best one. And in order for the Big Ten to move forward with it, something like this is going to need to go through. We don't know if USC will get their first tier payout wishes that they want. I tend to believe that will probably be something that the new USC president will take into account, or if Michigan will be going independent or not. But based on how this has gone and the credit Petiti has gotten from the presidents in the Big Ten and from UC Investments, gave a lot of credit to him and kind of flowers for the way he's been. Excuse me. It sounds like this deal is going to go through with all 18 schools eventually, but early next year, post hires, handshakes feel more likely than goodbyes in this situation. The Big Ten needs its big brands, and this conference is too intertwined together academically to separate over a deal where UC Investments clearly wants to try and figure it out. But what do you think is going to go on in this situation? What's going to happen? Do you think Michigan's going to go independent? Are you like me where it's like, they just need some time? I don't feel like, even though Michigan could, I don't feel like they really will. Or are the presidential vacancies as big of a deal as I think they are? Do you think they are too? Let me know your comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks again for being here. And just know if we have any more developments in this story, keep it locked in here at the Big Ten Huddle, as we will be covering them fully here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.